I do enjoy that we said in episode 1 that we wouldn't do any banter, and now we do exclusively 2.5 hours worth of banter every time.
We do. We just basically fuck around. Like, there's no, aside from the tasks themselves, there's no structure to this podcast at all. It's just us talking for God knows how long. And also, it's nearly 10 o'clock in the evening where I am, so if I was tired during the last 2 episodes, I'm going to be absolutely wiped out by the end of this one, everyone. All right.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Your Time Starts Now. Don't interrupt me while I'm doing the intro. Ladies and gentlemen.
I didn't interrupt you during the intro.
Yes, you did. Hold your tongue. Hold your tongue.
Keep going?
Yes, I will, but you need to hold your tongue, man. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, welcome to Your Time Starts Now, a Taskmaster podcast. I should stress that this is not the official Taskmaster podcast hosted by Ed Gamble. Neither of us is Ed Gamble. He definitely isn't, and I can assure you that I'm not, because I sound nothing like Ed Gamble. My name is Emerson.
And my name is Joseph, and this is Taskmaster Radio Caroline edition, if you want to have it the official version of it.
I mean,
we're just a pirate radio station.
I didn't even know that was the official radio station. I was suggesting we could start a radio station, but oh god, that would... I mean, it would involve less editing because it would be live, but oh well. And if you cock up on a radio station, it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, we could do a radio station. The problem is that we'd eventually just end up getting copyright striked out of existence because
oh god, yes.
I hate talk radio. I love music station radio.
There's British radio stations are quite they've got, well, BBC Radio 4, I think it is. Not being paid by BBC Radio. The BBC would never sponsor anyone, so oh well. But they do innuendo bingo. It ended a couple months ago, but my god, it was so funny. Innuendo bingo. Search it on YouTube. If you want a good laugh for about 3-4 hours, watch innuendo bingo, because that is a gem.
Or just listen to the unedited version of episode 1 of this podcast.
Oh yeah, the unedited episode 1 is... We might barely edit these anyway. We might enhance the sound quality a little. Censor a couple things that I don't want the audience to hear, and that's it. But anyway, Joe, what's been going on in your life since we last recorded?
The Cleveland fucking Browns managed to fucking beat the Pittsburgh Steelers into the motherfucking dirt, and I'm so fucking excited about it. Holy, this is for those of you outside of the United States, the Cleveland Browns for the last 25 years-ish have basically been US football's running joke of they're really bad and they aren't getting any better. We've had like 15 head coaches, like 2 dozen quarterbacks, which is the equivalent of the team captain for the offensive side. I don't know if there's like specific offensive and defensive positions in like association football and rugby and whatnot, but the quarterback is typically the head of the team. We've had like 15 of those. We finally got people who are good to play on this team, and then we're going into the playoffs. First round of the playoffs. We haven't been there since 2002. And the Cleveland Browns, 3 members of the defensive positions catch COVID. 5 members of the coaching staff catch COVID. And the head coach catches COVID. So they're all out of the game against our most heated rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who... Imagine if there was a guy who was really good at everything and also was a colossal dickweed. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers were going against us with 6 Super Bowl rings, Ben Roethlisberger, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and a bunch of other really good people. And the Pittsburgh motherfucking Steelers got driven into the dirt by the Cleveland Browns, a team that they have not beaten at Pittsburgh's home field since the 1980s when they were a completely different team because Cleveland sports are fucking weird and our team got stolen and moved to Baltimore, and then they started a new team with the same franchise history because fuck Art Modell. And look it up if you want more information, but fuck Art Modell. Anyways, the Browns came to Pittsburgh and disrespected the Steelers in their own fucking house, and it's so fucking glorious, and I cannot deal with it. If you want to understand the basic thing, just Google Corvette Cleveland Browns, and I love it. I cannot believe it. We could die against the Kansas City Chiefs next week on Sunday, and I don't care. This is like the best thing that has ever happened to the Browns. Oh my god. Like, we scored 28 points in the first quarter, and they didn't score anything. That's never happened before in NFL history. We did that. I can't believe it. I was watching the game and losing my mind. That's what's happened.
So are you done talking about football now?
State of Ohio. Yes.
Are you done? Hello to everyone who skipped forward over that because you either don't care about American football or you don't understand it, which are pretty much the same thing. Anything else that takes up less time happened in your life, Joe?
No.
Not a thing?
No. Listen, we're just waiting for Sunday to see if we continue on. If the Cleveland Browns go to the fucking playoffs, the next to the Super Bowl, the next episode after that's going to be me still drunk.
Yeah, I should clarify. We're recording this episode on Friday, the 15th of January, 2021. So I'm assuming it will be Sunday the 17th. Am I right?
No, the Super Bowl is in February.
Oh yeah, of course.
But the Super Bowl is in February. The next round of the playoffs is on Sunday the 17th, and then the week after that, provided that we win, we'll be going off to the divisionals, which is the last step before the playoffs, before the final, be all end all game, the Super Bowl, which the Cleveland Browns have never been to in the entire franchise history, which I should point out this year will be, I think, Super Bowl 52. So we haven't been to that game ever.
Ripple the crowds that will normally be there. I'll assume either the seats will be empty or they'll just have cardboard cutouts of people.
Regardless of anything, the people of Cleveland, there will be a mass super spreader event just called the City of Cleveland because everyone will be celebrating that, COVID or no COVID.
Jesus. I mean,
although I got my shot, so I'm good.
I can kind of. The Premier League still went ahead in the UK. I do not follow the Premier League to save my life. Dad, if you're listening, I'm sorry. But all football games in this country since they started again, which was in like May or June, have had no outside spectators. The stands have been like covered over with huge sheets bearing the logos of the teams.
It depends on the location here. Like in Ohio, we're allowed to have limited in-person attendance of up to, I think, 5,000, which considering the stadium small. As like a 25,000 seater, it's not that big. Although I should point out that the other NFL team in the state, the Cincinnati Bengals, that's a capacity crowd for them because the Bengals fucking suck. Although, that's barely scratching the surface because Ohio State, who just lost their playoff game, in the college football Super Bowl, basically, their home stadium in Columbus seats 100,000.
That's big.
Yeah, it's actually the third biggest stadium in the world. The one's bigger than it is the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and the whatever the May Day Stadium in Pyongyang, North Korea, where they have the Arirang Mass Games, that's the only bigger stadium in the world. U.S. college football is fucking insane.
I mean, the largest stadium in the UK is probably, to no surprise, Wembley Stadium, and that seats 90,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
In comparison.
Yeah, and on the OSU Michigan games, because that's like the heated rivalry between them, either stadium will be filled to the brim. So, 100,000 people. Which, even then, that's not the most insane thing, because University of Wisconsin plays the song Jump Around as part of their, like, rallying cry during the game.
The House of Pain song that goes, jump around, jump up, and get down.
Yeah, that song.
Okay.
That song. If you ever
the pinnacle
look
of 1990s hip-hop, that song is.
And it still plays to this day. The ground shakes enough to qualify on seismic recording equipment, and there's very frightening video of people in the lower decks as the stands are jumping, and the building is very obviously flexing. Because that's like 70,000 people jumping in unison. It's one of those things where it's like they had to design the building specifically for that.
Has it ever actually broken? No, it's never broken. No one's ever just crashed through.
No, it's solid concrete and steel. I believe they designed it specifically to cope with that at some point, because college football stadiums are just as big as regular stadiums.
I hope our possible American listeners are really getting their fill of culture here.
Well, this is a learning experience for the UK audience. How insane is America? Yes.
I mean,
like,
to tell the truth, the whole time you've been sitting here talking about American football, I have been quietly nodding my head, just pretending I know everything. That's the story on my end.
Basically, to sum up American sports, can you be good at a sport when you're a child? And by like child, I mean like teenager level. If you're really good at it, you can go to school for free, and you can get paid millions of dollars as a 20-year-old to do it professionally. Sports go sports. I definitely could have done that if I'd had any inkling to do that as an adult, as a child, but I didn't, so I sit and record podcasts.
You know, adulthood is catching up to you when people who were into sports players and stuff are like playing for the national teams, and they're your age.
Oh yeah, no. Baker Mayfield, the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, is like 2 years older than me. And he plays for like hundreds of thousands of people every week.
That's like 7 years older than me. Or maybe 6. I've lost count.
Yeah, but you are just a young baby. Soon to become a full...
Yeah, I'll be 20 this year. Don't mess with me. I'll be 20 this year. Don't mess with me.
Been there, done that. Let's get on with the episode. You're going to take the prize task this time, because we have a television show to talk about, not just football.
Yeah, but there's one thing.
I could sit here for an hour and recount the entire game.
Yeah, but first, what we have to do is you after you prattled on about American football for a while. I have a life too. Just kidding. I actually don't. Just kidding. I don't actually. I don't actually have a life.
Okay.
I mean, I'll make this super quick, because obviously we had to talk about the episode. The UK is basically third installment of the lockdown trilogy. Basically, we're in lockdown 3. So all restaurants are closed, all non-essential shops are closed, everyone's stuck inside, online learning started again, and I started online learning for university. And I do a course that's very difficult to do online. I do drama with creative writing. Now, one of those aspects is more or less okay, but the other, it's very hard to do drama online. But
well, I mean, you could
I've
start
survived.
drama online.
You
but
can,
I guess it
but
means
it's
acting,
not the same.
right?
Yeah, there's performing
Yeah.
portions of it, but it's just not the same. I miss my little flat in my university accommodation as well.
Yeah, COVID has happened to us all. When can you get the vaccine? Because they're starting to introduce it more and more into the United States.
The thing with the vaccine, obviously the UK has vaccinated more people than every other country in Europe combined, for a start. I think we've vaccinated about 3 million people in total, which is about, I can't be asked. I think it's about 20% of the population. No, not 20. 5. I'm getting mixed up. About somewhere between 4 and 5% of the population. But anyway, I personally can't. Obviously, the older or more vulnerable you are, the earlier you will get the vaccine. So I'm very young, and I'm not clinically vulnerable. So I'm scheduled to get it after August, but I don't mind because I don't really need it right now.
Yeah, I was very fortunate because my father is actually a doctor. So the hospital system that he has access to, when they run out of people to vaccinate, a lot of times they'll have extra doses left over. So I got mine about 2 weeks ago.
All right. Is it a single dose vaccine, or do you need 2 doses?
I have the Moderna one that you have to do twice.
Oh, okay.
So my second dose is the first week of February.
Okay, so there's currently 2 vaccines. There's a Moderna vaccine, I think that's what it's called, and we also have the Oxford vaccine, which is much more accessible.
Yeah,
but then also a third
and then actually
vaccine.
In the United States we have was Pfizer BioNTech, which is I call it the Dippin' Dots vaccine because you have to keep it at temperatures like -50 Fahrenheit, which the only company in the United States that has the existing know-how to transport and do logistics of things at that temperature is the Dippin' Dots ice cream company. Because their whole shtick since the 1980s has been that their ice cream is kept at -98 until you eat it.
We are not sponsored by this ice cream company, just to say.
If Dippin' Dots would like to sponsor us, please email me at YTSNPod@gmail.com. Please sponsor me. I like ice cream.
So do I. But more vaccine news, there was a third vaccine approved. I can't remember its name off the top of my head, but it's scheduled to arrive in March at the earliest, and it only requires 1 dose, which will be huge as well. That could really
nice.
that will get the wheels turning so quickly.
Yeah.
But every jab in the arm, we inch closer to the end, is what Prime Minister Boris Johnson says. We are not political, so we shall not say whether we like Boris or not, even though your opinion is your opinion.
It's not even my country, so I'm not saying anything.
He's quite the character, Boris Johnson. But
I know. I've watched Mock the Week enough to know all of the jokes about all of the most recent prime ministers, but we're not going to do that because people have a variety of opinions, and sometimes if you say an opinion, other people will not like you then. So we're just going to and we're going to talk about the fact that Tim Key brought a fucking piston as a prize.
Okay.
In the prize task.
finally, after about nearly 20 minutes, we're getting into the main meat of this podcast, and that is, of course, Taskmaster, episode 3, titled something like a children's book, I think. The Poet.
The Poet and the Egg.
Yeah, forget the tortoise and the hare. This is the poet and the egg. Yeah. Should we call this episode a very American episode?
If we continue on with our Americana discussion, yes, but who knows what might happen. We haven't gotten to the prize task yet.
I mean, we've name-dropped suggestive episode titles over the past, and we've barely gone with one. You'll see which one we go with in the end. Yeah. Okay, so the prize task. We all know by now how this works. I will not explain it to you. The category for today, is most meaningful item. So, Tim Key, as Joe already mentioned, he's brought in a piston. And Greg's initial reaction to this piston is like, it's shit. It's shit, and I'm not giving you any points for it. But then Tim goes into detail about why he has the piston and why it's so sentimental to him. It's from the Edinburgh Comedy Festival or Awards thing. I don't even know my own country's comedy details. Which he won.
Edinburgh Fringe Festival, he said.
Edinburgh Fringe Festival, that's it. God, I feel so stupid. But
I just remember it from the episode. I've never actually seen it.
I knew it was Edinburgh related, but oh well. The set involved a hodgepodge of different things, and this piston was one of them, and the whole set was taken away. Tim didn't get to keep anything except for this piston. And that's why it's so meaningful to him, because it reminds him of his greatest achievement. And I think that Edinburgh Fringe Festival, in which I think it is the same one, but at one of them, Alex Horn wanted to go to the one that Tim Key was at, but he couldn't. So he set up Taskmaster, or the rough grounds for Taskmaster, in its place, and thus Taskmaster was born.
That's exactly right. I think it's actually mentioned in like episode 1 of the official podcast, which I listened to a bit of. The one discussing episode 1 of Taskmaster. But also, it should be noted that Tim could have taken all the rest of the set home with him. It's just that he lived in a very small apartment, and he couldn't fit anything of it because it was all like refrigerators and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This piston was something that he could easily take with him.
As someone who, when not at my parents' house, lives in a very small apartment or flat, I can understand the feeling of being very tight with your space, and you have to be very careful with what you bring in, as in, like, you have to only bring the bare essentials. So my room is basically just the only thing that even takes up any sort of room in my room at university is my laundry bag.
I am the exact opposite way. I had a very small apartment, and I didn't have that small of an apartment in college. I still filled it with everything. It's like, does it matter that I don't have room for it? No. I'm the opposite of a minimalist. I'm a maximalist.
I would love to be more of a maximalist or whatever, but I just can't. I don't have the room. But anyway, on to Mr. Romesh Ranganathan, who did okay last time. And Romesh is very short and sweet. He brings in his wedding ring. And the reaction this gets puts the stakes really high. Even without the reaction, the stakes go up already for this, because obviously your wedding ring, this has to be, I can't describe how important this is to you, but the fact that Romesh is putting this on the line,
important.
The fact that Romesh is putting this on the line is incredible, and it actually makes the episode incredibly tense, because goddamn, if Romesh turns up home and his wife notices he doesn't have his wedding ring, or If Frank Skinner... Sorry, I think I'm about to... That's staying in.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ. And I was very quiet with my sodas. Jesus, man.
Well, I mean, to tell the truth, I've moved on.
Okay.
I've moved on from water. I'm drinking orange squash. It's basically like Kool-Aid.
Okay.
It's like you have a fruit concentration and you mix water to it.
Okay. I just don't drink Kool-Aid that often.
Orange squash is a very British thing. But, oh well, Romesh gives in his wedding ring and Frank Skinner suggests that he'll be in as much trouble. Hold on, Frank Skinner says he'll be in as much trouble as Romesh if he turns up home with it. And oh, but yeah, I want to mention one thing before we move on to Roisin, and that is what Greg says he did to Romesh before the show started. He says good luck to everyone, and then he goes up to Romesh and goes boop on his nose, just like that, with his index finger. He just lightly taps him on the nose, going boop. And according to Romesh, his reaction was just like, What would you do if I just went up to you and went boop on your nose like that, Joe? How would you react?
Considering we're on different continents, I'd be shocked.
Fair enough. But what Romesh does is from the looks of it, he freaks out. Basically, he just goes like, "What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that, mate?" And it's like Romesh is kind of like Richard Ayoade, doesn't like being touched.
Yeah, Romesh is like one of those animals that uses like bright colors as a defensive mechanism. It's like you don't want to go near it because you know that something bad will happen.
And final point on Romesh, this episode is probably one of the angriest Romesh has ever been. And it's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, let's talk about Roisin. And Roisin...
Boo.
You're not a big Roisin fan, huh?
Not of this particular entrant into the prize task.
This I'll say right now, this episode was abysmal for Roisin.
Oh yeah, this and episode 1.
Oh yeah.
Are just...
The last episode 2, was definitely Roisin's best.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what Roisin brings in is a dictionary. There's no explanation given, I think, as to why this dictionary is meaningful, but all Roisin says is...
Because it's full of meanings. What does a word...
hell?
Have you not gotten that until just now?
I'm ashamed to say I didn't.
Oh my god, it's full of meanings. That's the whole thing, and it's such a bad joke. It's such a bad joke, and she deserves no points for that.
Okay, while I slowly recover from my state of shock, I'll just finish by saying that Roisin insulted Romesh and Tim by calling Romesh's wedding ring rubbish and Tim's piston fake, and this riles up a reaction from everyone. And then what Big Gregory does is
Big Gregory.
Shall I make that my permanent nickname for him? Big Gregory.
I mean, Big Gregory is watching you is really funny. That's the episode.
Okay,
title.
Big Gregory is watching you. So anyway, Big Gregory, he gets out of his chair, and I don't think it's at this point that we really see the mammoth of a man that Greg Davis is. Because I don't think we've seen... On the show, I don't think we've seen his full body up to this point, as in, like, standing up. But
I don't think he has.
But what Gregors does... Why am I calling him all these weird nicknames? Fuck it, we're going with it. What Gregors does is he goes up to Roisin as if he's about to cuff her in the face. But then he just goes, whoop, on her nose. Just like that. as in like an anti-attack.
Yeah.
But yeah, Roisin crashes into last place. I deserve to be in last place too for it because I didn't get it right away.
Not even knowing.
I've got a lot on my mind right now, mate. I don't have time to think about cryptic jokes.
You have watched this episode so many times.
Yeah, but I don't think about a lot of stuff. I just watch. I sometimes just watch things because I'm interested.
Okay.
But I promise.
Let's keep on going.
From this point onwards, I promise I'll be more observant.
Yes. What's that behind you? Anyways, what does Josh bring in?
Josh,
tell the nice people.
I'm ashamed to say that I am running this show and not you. But what Josh brings in is a book by his dad, which is full of letters sent to the local newspaper, I think it is.
Yeah.
The book itself was rejected by a lot of people, so he got it published himself, and the book is called I Blame the Beatles by Josh Widdicombe's dad, Tom Widdicombe. And Josh himself describes the book as a real slice of life, which is a quote for the back cover if I ever heard one.
Uh-huh.
Don't have much more to say on Josh. But then Frank, Mr. Frank Skinner, the man who's can be seen in a selfie with Adam and Eve, is
has brought in a child's hobby horse.
His child's hobby horse.
His child's hobby, which I would like to. That raises several questions. First of all, Frank Skinner has a child young enough for one of these is mildly surprising considering his advanced age. And also, did Frank Skinner Frank Skinner did he evolve to have the ability to procreate? Because surely otherwise everyone in the world would be related to Frank Skinner. He's been around that long.
I mean, so I think
it's like Genghis Khan.
I mean, to be fair, I think Donald Trump has a son who's like 13.
That's true. I hadn't considered that.
And also Boris Johnson, who we mentioned earlier, the man's about 56, I think. He gave birth to a newborn baby just last year, who's probably about 6.
I would say that his wife did, not Boris.
Well, whatever. You get what I mean. It's 10 o'clock. It's 10:15 in the evening in the UK. Give me some slack. Cut me some slack.
It's not like you have to go out in the morning. Anyways, keep on going. Frank brought in his.
You don't know what it's like to go out in the morning.
I do.
Oh,
we don't have a lockdown here in the States.
Yeah, but why?
What are you nuts?
Well, all right. We'll make this super quick. A couple of days ago, our kitchen ceiling leaked, and this was at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was pelting it down with rain. So my dad, he woke me up by coming into my room, which overlooks the kitchen, to see the problem, and then he made me get up, get dressed, go on the roof with him to clean the problem at 6 o'clock in the morning while it's pelting it down with rain. You have not known hard work until you've done that.
I'll admit, I don't do hard work. We have people for that. Anyways, moving on.
All right, so scores on the doors real quick. It's very straightforward. Romesh obviously gets 5 points. How can someone who puts their wedding ring on the table not win that task?
I didn't give him 5 points.
We'll come to that in a second. Wait, why not? All right. Well, we'll talk about Frank. Frank gets 4, Tim 3, Josh 2, and Roisin gets 1. But now it's time for Taskmaster Joe. Should I just make that the most voice cracky piece of thing ever? So Taskmaster Joe.
You should try and. You should try and do it in different styles each time. But anyway, so
Taskmaster Joe.
no. So anyways, to start with, I gave the number 1 slot to Josh because a meaningful thing like that from your parents, I feel is very meaningful. Like if I had to bring in something, it would probably be something that's very close to me that was given to me by my parents. Like
Yeah, we should say
like
what we
I
bring
have
in as well. But keep doing your
like I
stuff.
have like when I lived in my college apartments, I would have notes on things. My parents would sometimes mail me things that I forgot at home, and I would leave the notes that my mom sent to me on the fridge until I moved out, and I still have them. So I view stuff from your parents a lot more meaningfully than I think some people might.
Yeah.
After that, no. What were
I
you
was going to say, is there anything specifically that you'd bring in for this task?
Something I'd have to go through my archives of like handwritten things that people have given me, like birthday cards, notes, that sort of thing, and I'd pull something that I feel is very meaningful, but I'm also willing to lose.
Fair
just
enough.
so because so yeah, something like that. What would you bring in?
What would I bring in? I mean, I've got a lot of stuff from when I was a baby that I still have. I'd probably say I'd have to bring in 2 things. One's an cast iron model of my hand when I was a baby, and the other is a iron model.
Cast iron,
or just it's like an iron. It's like a iron statue. It's a statue basically of my hand and my foot from when I was a little baby. I don't know what I meant by cast iron.
How did they do that?
I mean, it's just they just took a picture and replicated it out of stone, I guess, and I've still got them.
Oh, a picture. Okay.
I was statue. Thinking... It's like a little stone statue.
Okay. I wouldn't do something like that because I would be in the same boat as Romesh is, because if I lost, then I would have family members who were going to murder me. So I would not do that.
But sometimes you have to take risks.
No, not with that stuff. Anyways, moving on to Tim. I gave him second because it's actually a very sweet story about him winning the Fringe Festival, and this is the only thing he had left from it. That's a very nice thing that I definitely want to reward. Frank I put in third because, it's his child, and it's his child's favorite toy, and it's a very meaningful sort of thing. Romesh I put in fourth because Romesh... Obviously, first of all, it's very funny to make Romesh incredibly upset. Also, there's a line in which, do it for the comedy, goes over into you're actually gonna get hurt doing this. And I feel that putting your wedding ring on the chopping block for a stupid game show, especially one that at this point in time you wouldn't know was going to be a massive success, is something that we don't want to reward, because that's just asking for trouble. Especially, so I would give Romesh fourth, and then I have to give Roisin fifth because holy shit, that's a terrible, terrible gag.
Which I'm still
gag, and you should never be rewarded for that.
I'm very ashamed of myself for not getting it, but we shan't dwell on that.
We shan't dwell on that. Instead, we're going to dwell on
Task 1.
The laws of physics, namely how far can you throw a fucking teabag, Romesh?
This is the most British task ever.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to point out right now that this is probably mildly sacrilegious that me, as an American, is discussing this, because I've never drank tea in my life.
I have drank
I don't plan on it
I have drunk tea, but it's not really my thing. I'm more of a hot chocolate kind of guy.
Coffee and soda. But anyways, so the task is throw a tea bag into a mug from the furthest distance. You have 1 hour. And we start with with Frank and Roisin, who both decide to wet their tea bags, which is actually, this is kind of smart. I definitely wouldn't have thought of this at first because I just don't drink tea. But Roisin decides that she's going to drop her tea from a ladder into a mug so that she doesn't have to throw it, because that way she doesn't have to worry about aiming.
Well, she throws it a little bit. She does the little hand motion, so she's giving it a little bit of a launch with her hand.
Yeah.
So technically that counts as throwing.
So technically, yeah, and she gets it about 2.4 meters, which is not a bad distance. Unfortunately, everybody else was better.
That's about 2.4 meters is about as tall as Big Gregory himself.
Mm-hmm. And Frank, meanwhile, goes and actually just throws the damn tea bags, which what Frank does is that he goes into the shed and he finds a very long box and braces it against the side of the house.
This box.
And this is going to be important in a moment.
This fucking box. It's amazing.
Okay, Romesh, we'll come to that in a minute. Anyways, Frank rips the box open, so it's basically a diagonal chute, and he just throws the tea bags at the box with the mug at the base, so that they just sort of hit the thing and slide down into the mug. It's a very, very good invention, and he gets 10.04 meters out of this. Also, this fantastic quote with props to the people in the editing department at Taskmaster, because this is exactly how it goes. Is Frank says, someone will spend 45 minutes before realizing they should wet the tea. Cut to Romesh doing his stats. I just realized I should wet these.
Yeah, that's
Romesh had decided that he was going to do this with quantity over quality, and just got every tea bag and every mug in the Taskmaster house and was just hurling it like...
It's not a bad idea.
Almost like,
I don't think it's a bad idea, though.
It's not.
But
it's not really.
It was poorly executed.
Yeah, because what you want to do, this is based off of like an old fairground game that we have in the States, where you throw balls into cups and win prizes, where you've got to keep the cups really close to each other so that you have the biggest chance of landing something.
It's kind of like beer pong, in a way.
Yeah, beer pong's a better example, but I don't drink that often. But Romesh spends 45 minutes before he realizes that he could wet the tea bags, and is very annoyed by this because he now has so much more range on his wet tea bags that it basically renders everything else before this useless. Now, this is funny as it is, but it's going to get funnier in a moment. But first I want to ask a question, which is that why did no one throw the tea bags in the tin that they came in? Because surely that would have had even more range because it was even heavier.
Yeah, but the tea bag has to go into the mug.
As we see in a moment, the mug can be anything of any size, because Josh Widdicombe, who also found a box in the shed and was using it, he has a creative ruling of what a mug is.
There is that.
And
but surely throwing the whole jar.
He decides.
Surely throwing the whole jar. It would be, especially if the tea bags are wet as well. A rather large jar that's already quite heavy in itself, full of wet tea bags, that requires a bit of welly to throw.
I mean, you got to go for the. It'd be almost like also, I didn't say that you had to. I also didn't say that the tea bags had to be wet or it had to be full. You just throw the jar with like a single tea bag in it, and the glass and the container will have enough heft that you can get it a good distance. And then if you can sink it into the mug by using, I don't know, a box or something as a chute, you could definitely get a lot of distance on it. Also,
it's kind of like what
here's a thought: if you have an hour, if you had an hour and a shed, why not just climb onto the roof of the Taskmaster house and like drop it down the chimney or something?
Ooh, is it? I think there might be a chimney. I've not studied the Taskmaster house in enough detail. Some fan I am.
It's a 1900s era house. It'll definitely have a chimney on it, or just drop it off the roof or something like that, and then
What he
just
could have done was
figure out how to do that.
I
But
think drop it down
anyways,
like the drain pipe or something.
yeah, there's a lot of different ways you could use
That's
the
what I would
geography
do.
of the
That's
house
what I would do.
to your advantage.
But it's also the
We're getting
purpose.
off track. So Josh has a creative ruling of what a mug is, and it's basically anything that has a handle and you can drink tea out of. So naturally, he uses a wheelbarrow, and to his credit, he does throw the tea bags into it. He gets 15.1 meters, which he does pour milk, water, drinks out of it.
Oh.
Alex has given a garbage can that a mug has been taped to, that a handle has been taped to, and that's his tea drinking solution, which is really funny.
Can I just say
that? Oh, what?
Josh drinking milk straight out of the wheelbarrow is pretty gruesome. It's probably one of the most gruesome things I've. It's like I mean, gruesome's not the right word. Sorry, it's just sort of those. It's quite cringy. It's like my reaction is sort of like those people in the studio, just like ugh kind of thing.
I understand that, but I think it's actually more. There's at least some amount of tea in it, but you gotta go for it. If you're gonna claim that it's a mug, you gotta drink.
Also, what I was doing,
and so
what kind of made it a bit, because I put on a VPN. Won't say which because we're not sponsored by anyone. I put on a VPN and felt like I was watching from America, and I watched the Taskmaster episodes on YouTube because I cannot bear to sit through the ad breaks. And I put the video on 1.5 times the speed, so it moved slightly faster. And it actually made it a lot funnier, but it also made things like a bit. Obviously, because it's like sped up, but also they felt more like impulse decisions, so that was quite funny. And Josh drinking milk out of the wheelbarrow on 1.5 times the speed is not as funny as it should. It has no right to be as funny as it is, basically. But Josh very quickly just like gets down on his knees and without hesitation just starts drinking out of the wheelbarrow.
That does sound really funny, and then
also the speed will come into
he does
hilariosity.
Oh my god, I hadn't considered
with the egg task, but we will get to the egg task.
Oh, yeah, we will get to the egg task. Meanwhile,
oh yes, I'm covering the egg task,
and
yes,
yeah. Tim Key does what I have written down here as proper British engineering. He decides to. He doesn't use a box. He uses a tarp and a shovel, and he digs a little hole in the ground, sticks the mug in the dirt, uses the tarp as a chute, and just hurls tea bags at it with. Does he stick them in a tennis ball and then uses one of those?
What he does is
hurler things.
Do you get those? Like the things you put the ball in the States and you throw it and.
I'm aware of them. I don't have a dog or any interest in
tennis. We have a dog,
but I'm aware
he's
that
not big enough to play that kind of fetch. Or well, he can, but he's like we don't own one of those basically. But basically, Tim actually gets it in with the hurler thing and the tennis ball with the tea bag that's inside it. He gets it in first shot, and from the furthest distance.
And yeah, he does it in 23.87 meters, which is very good.
Yeah, what were the other people's? Josh did.
Romesh was 8.5 meters. Roisin was 2.4. Frank was 10.04, and Josh was 15.1.
We forgot the Alex Horn unit of measurement this episode, which was dogs, assuming that a dog is a meter long, which is bullshit. That's bull because like dogs vary so much in size. It's like a little chihuahua, 1 meter long.
It's a standardized unit of measurement. It's the standardized dog.
What is the standardized
individual dog?
Labrador?
I was assuming it's some scientific, whichever dog was nearest to the scientist when they decided to make this unit of measurement.
I mean, I feel like
It's-
Labrador is like.
Have you ever?
I feel like a Labrador is the species is the breed that comes to most people's mind when they think dog. I mean, like the facial design of the Labrador is like the most what we'd associate with a dog. Like a small
I was thinking golden
child.
retriever, but
Golden retriever.
no. If you on other strange units of measurement, have you ever heard of the smoot? It's a unit of measure created at MIT when a fraternity, as part of the fraternity initiation ritual at one of the frat houses there, they were told to go measure the bridge that went across the river by campus using one of the initiates as the unit of measurement.
Okay.
And so they just picked him up and moved him down the bridge and measured it, and his last name was Smoot. So they measured it in smoots. Interestingly enough, Mr. Smoot later became the head of the International Organization of Units and Measures, which means that not only is he a unit of measurement, he is in charge of measurements. So that is a funny story about similar sort of things. But anyways, now we move on to the really important part of this task, which is that Romesh Ranganathan,
he could not find a box.
As part of his role as the most belligerent man in the world,
he can't find a bloody box.
Is really...
Sorry, I stole that from you, but I just couldn't help it.
No, I have a better quote, which is that as they are arguing over the definition of a mug...
Oh, I wrote down this one too. You could say it, though.
Greg says, my definition of a mug is someone who can't find a box in that house. Because as far as Alex Horn claims, there was a box available to Romesh in the shed. He just couldn't find it. To which Romesh claims there was no boxmate at increasing levels of volume throughout the entire task round. As other people use boxes in their task, he is so deliriously upset over this, as if that would have helped him at all, considering that he couldn't fucking figure out to wet the tea bags.
Oh god, I mean, Romesh was... One of my favourite quotes from Romesh is probably one that's just because it's like, as a British person, I can sort of like understand it more, but you'll probably get it. Romesh, when Josh is like getting all the things for his task, because Josh uses a lot of things to get his tea bag in the mug. Romesh says it's like a bloody B&Q warehouse, where I assume you get the gist of what B&Q is. It's sort of like a DIY.
Yeah, B&Q is a hardware store.
Like a Home Depot kind of thing. It's just like your DIY stuff. Yeah. It'll sell tiles, hammers, basically everything like that, and it's just a British thing. Mm-hmm. Named B&Q because those were the initials of the two founders' surnames.
Mm-hmm. That's how many things are named in ye olden days of black and white.
It was only in 1969. They had colour TV.
Ye olden days of black and white in the United Kingdom.
Now, we had colour TV by the end of the 60s, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to just leave it there. We had colour, I think.
Yes. You can't... You can actually get black and white TV, but it's only if you don't have enough money for a colour TV license.
Yeah, which, I assume that our audience knows about TV licenses, but it's basically... It's like having cable, but it's not optional. It's hilarious.
Anyways. You basically actually have to have a TV license to watch some form of TV in the UK.
Yes, and otherwise the detector vans will come around and find you. At which point, and now I'm going to make a very old BBC reference, you have to ask Vivian to eat the television, and then he somehow does. Which, do you know what show that's a reference to?
I'm ashamed to say I don't. Is it Blue Peter?
It's the Young Ones.
Oh, okay.
They had an episode where where the detector man came around, and they didn't have a license, because, and best line from that episode is, "That was a very cheap joke, Mike." Yeah, I know. I'm saving up for a license. Anyways, and they ask Vivian to eat the television, and somehow he does. Anyways, that show's insane, and I love it. And I found it when I was too young to understand that it was, kind
licenses
of weird.
have caused a lot of controversy in this country lately.
Yeah. My favorite line from that entire show is, "You can't go to the lavatory. Why? Because I promised Dexy's Midnight Runners they could play in there." And then they cut to Dexy's Midnight Runners doing a concert in their bathroom. Anyways, moving on. Ramesh is so upset because Ramesh is really bad at this show sometimes.
Romesh, right? This box thing, it does not make life easier for Romesh. It reaches its apex in the live task at the end of this.
Yes, I had that written down. And then, oh my god, it's just so dumb. Anyways, as the scores go, Greg gives Tim the win because he did it the longest distance. Disqualifies Josh because he doesn't feel that it's a mug.
No, wrong reason. Wrong reason. He disqualifies Josh because he put the milk in first. And everyone in the UK knows that you never put the milk in first when you make a cup of tea. It's the equivalent of putting the milk in before your cereal, basically.
Okay, that's a dumb reason. I'm not going to tell people how to drink their fucking tea. If you want to make it with milk first, I don't care.
It's British law, not LAWLORE, law, to not put the milk in first. And I agree with it.
Cool. But I'm the one who does the Taskmaster Joe sketch, so we're going to get to that in a second. Anyways, just running through the rest of them. Frank gets second, Romesh gets third, and Roisin gets fourth.
And Josh is disqualified.
Josh is disqualified. Do you want to do a different style of intro this time? Maybe flamenco or something?
TASKMASTERJOE. Taskmaster Joe.
That's so not flamenco, but let's keep going. Anyways, my things are exactly the same, except that I give Josh Widdicombe full points for inventiveness, so I don't disqualify him, because he drank from it. That counts. It's a mug because he actually went the extra distance and drank from it. But otherwise, the points are the same. Just move down one for everyone below him. So Tim's first, Josh is second, Frank's third, Romesh is fourth, Roisin is fifth. That's only difference is that I gave Josh points because anyone who's willing to drink tea out of a wheelbarrow deserves the points he was going for.
I don't quite agree with that. I'm more on Greg's side, but c'est la vie.
Yeah, it's just you go the extra mile, and sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. And this time he did get it. Anyways, now we have the next task.
Hold on, scores.
Scores?
Yeah, because
did you have them written down?
The actual scores that Greg gave, well, obviously we talked about them, but up at this point, Romesh, Frank, and Tim all have 8 points. Roisin's on 3, and Josh is on 2. But this next task is the point where Josh Widdicombe really takes off. Like it couldn't go any better for Josh from this point.
Yeah, I just like to point out I took 19 pages of notes on this season. I didn't write down the scores anywhere, like what the end of episode scores were.
You're lucky I did.
Yeah, but so anyways, task 2. It was very bad conditions for art.
It's my turn.
Yeah, I know. That's just my favorite quote.
Very bad conditions for art. Yeah, it's a good quote. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I thought you were stealing my thunder. Not that I have any thunder. I have any thunder. Actually, I have thunder in spades because it fucking rains all the time here.
Because you live in England. It was raining earlier here. And then, of course, just as I get home to record this, it gets really nice out.
I went for a nice walk while the sun was setting earlier today. really nice. But anyway, well, we've had lovely afternoons. That cannot be said for our famous 5 during Task 2. Well, most of them had it all right, but there was one person in particular. Not Tim, but we'll get to Tim. The task is very simple. Create an image using a GPS device to track your route. Now, before we talk about what happened in this task, I want to talk very briefly about the location where this task is, because this is set at like a sports club. And I've actually done sports lessons with my secondary school at this club. Back when I used to play football when I was forced to, and I don't play football anymore, but back when I played football with my secondary school, I played it at this ground because I went to school very near the Taskmaster house.
You should see if you can invade the Taskmaster set while they're filming or something.
Oh, they're not going to be filming for a while, I think. But oh well.
Didn't they announce that they're doing the next season?
Well, they've already filmed. I think they've already filmed Champion of Champions 2 and Series 11. So.
Oh, okay. They already filmed.
But oh well, that's the brief history of my experience with the location. So I mentioned
what's the location called? So we know.
Entertain the people while I Google it.
So anyways, the Cleveland Browns are really, really good this year, and I don't care if they get squashed by Pat Mahomes and the really, really good Super Bowl champs.
I think it's just called Rocco
the Kansas City Chiefs.
Rocco spelled ROKO.
Okay. But yeah, I don't care if they lose because we did something that we've never done before, and holy shit, it was amazing.
You still want to call this episode a very American episode?
We might end up doing that. Also, I just want to point out that they had an hour to do this task, just because you didn't mention this. You make the best drawing with this GPS device. You have 1 hour.
Okay, let's start with Josh. Josh draws a flower. It's lovely weather, and it's a lovely drawing. It's basically perfect.
It's in a pot.
Oh yeah, the pot was a really nice detail. He didn't need to draw the pot, but Josh Widdicombe goes the extra mile, as we've seen. From this point throughout this whole episode, especially from this point onward, Josh Widdicombe goes the extra mile. Tim also goes the extra mile, literally. Everything. But we'll get to that. So Josh draws a very nice flower. Not a lot to say more about Josh other than he hates popping balloons, and I can relate because I fucking hate it when people pop balloons around me.
Well, you should say why he had to pop the balloon.
Oh well, he had to. Well, they all had to pop the balloon to signify that their drawing was finished. Josh popped his balloon, and he was obviously expecting it to make it like a loud bang kind of noise, but instead it just went like, and it just kind of fizzled out very quietly. And Josh is
for the
sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, for the visually impaired among our viewers, the GPS device is attached to a big cluster of balloons that they have to carry around and then pop at the end. So you get some ridiculous images of like Romesh Ranganathan holding a bunch of balloons, or Tim Key getting battered by the elements with a gigantic number of balloons over his head.
Imagine if we had any audibly impaired listeners. Shame.
We theoretically could, but that would mean that we'd also have some poor transcriptionists who aren't getting paid enough.
All right.
Because I'm certainly not doing it.
Me neither. But Josh pops a balloon. Doesn't go out with the big bang that it should. And he's drawn a very nice flower. But then things start to pick up with Little Miss Trouble, Roisin. So, oh god,
my god,
the build up to this task cannot go unnoticed. So, Alex starts by saying that telling Greg that obviously Roisin and Greg know each other very well, so she wanted to draw something that she thought Greg might like. And she starts by suggesting a sausage. And this coupled with the fact that it was something Greg might like, the reaction this gets is perfect. It's just like the whole studio just laughs, and you see Greg. He's kind of like, he looks at Roisin, and she's just, her head's in her hands by this point. She's so embarrassed, but so then she just starts drawing and draws what she claims to be a pregnant lady with a tail. And what cannot be unmentioned here is Greg's very, very passionate hatred of pregnant women, claiming, in his words, that they take up more than their fair share of space.
Which I actually have to ask, because I didn't Google this. Does Greg have children?
No, he doesn't. He's a single man.
Okay.
Alex Horne has 3 sons, though.
Okay, I was just asking, because that would be totally in Greg's character to hate pregnant women despite having produced children.
Nah, I mean, Greg Davis was a teacher for about 15 years. I personally think that's what might have driven him away from having children, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine that too.
But so the pregnant lady with a tail then turns into what Roisin describes as some tulips. Sort of copying Josh, but not really.
Not really, because Josh's was good and hers was bad.
Frank's a little later on. Frank said that Roisin's drawing looks like a duck in a golf bag, and Greg says that if Roisin had called that duck in a golf bag, she would have been in contention to win. But if you don't think, you snooze, you lose. Basically, why can't I think of stuff? Oh, probably because it's nearly 11 o'clock. Just to clarify,
Well, then go faster.
I mean, I'm trying, but I like talking in depth about this stuff. We've been recording for about an hour and 7 minutes by this point, so let's just keep going. Roisin finishes her duck in a golf bag drawing. It's utter shite, and then, oh dear, we have the absolute disaster that was Tim Key. So
yeah, I actually
I
have
for
two
Tim.
notes for this. One, I wrote goes big in a rainstorm, which is such a good sentence that I'm glad I wrote it. Also, I believe this is the first time that we hear the jazzy version of the Taskmaster theme when in the show.
Notice that. That's a good point, though.
I wrote down a couple of times when the first time we hear a musical cue that's new. But this is definitely the first time that we've heard the we've heard the jazzy mute.
Is that
version.
The one that sort of sounds like do 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 do?
Oh, hold on! I have to now pull it up.
It's kind of hard to sing that.
It's yeah, no, hold on. It's at, if you go to the YouTube video, it's at like 20 minutes 56 seconds.
Okay.
So let me just try. Hold on.
While you do, I'll just keep going. So Tim, God, I felt for Tim. I felt for Tim during this task because he did this in a torrential rainstorm.
Oh, it's the kind that sounds like it's being played on the old record player at first, and then it goes.
That's the one. I think that was the one I was
jazzy kind of music. Yeah, we can't sing, but if you look at the official YouTube video.
But so let's finally talk about what Tim draws. Poor Tim. He starts by drawing a key, saying he was going to draw a key appropriately for his surname. Doesn't like it, so he crosses it out, and then he just runs off in the other direction.
He goes for a walk.
No, he goes for a run in the rain. Tim claims it was the worst hour of his life, and Alex says he ran well over 3 miles.
in the rain with an umbrella and a bunch of balloons.
Reminds me when I was on the roof at 6 a.m. in the pouring rain helping my dad fix the kitchen ceiling.
Yep, sometimes that just happens to you.
God. Life's a beach. A biatch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we close on two fellas, one old, the other angry. We have got Frank Skinner and Romesh Ranganathan. Frank draws what I can only describe as a piss poor version of his son's hobby horse. It's almost as bad as Roisin's.
Which it's very interesting that it's very interesting that he did that, because did he must have planned that, I guess, to correspond with the episode, right? But he didn't know which order they were going to be put in, so he must have just had hobby horse on the brain, I guess.
Could be, or maybe he could have just made it up what it was right then and there. Now
that's also true.
Yeah, I feel like the latter is more plausible. But we should talk about Romesh, because what I like, because I like Romesh's drawing. Even though I'm not Taskmaster Joe, I would personally have put this ahead of Josh's. Romesh draws an actually quite accurate self-portrait. It's not super detailed, but you can see the resemblance to him quite strongly. It's got the glasses.
I enjoyed it too, actually.
And what I like is Romesh's self-portrait of him is smiling, even though Romesh barely smiles on the show.
Maybe he found a box, or was riding a horse.
Frank Skinner suggests he was in a cardboard box. The picture of him was in a cardboard box, and his face was just poking through.
Yeah.
Greg hates Romesh's drawing because he doesn't want a picture of Romesh anywhere near him, but concedes it's second best, and it goes right behind Josh's. Tim gets 3 points, I think purely out of sympathy. Frank gets 2, and Roisin gets 1. Now it's time for Taskmaster Joe.
Yeah, I actually gave Josh and Romesh a dual first place, because Romesh's was very well done.
I don't hate that decision.
And Josh's was just a very, very good effort. No second place. Frank gets third because it's not the best drawing, but it's certainly better than the other ones. Because Tim gets fourth because there are extenuating circumstances, and also his attempt at crossing out the key actually made it look like the bidding in a key, so it actually somehow made it more accurate. And then Roisin sucked, so she goes last.
Surprise.
And so now we go to the third task, which is Josh Widdicombe putting it all on the fucking line for this.
Oh God, I've got so much respect for Josh Widdicombe after this. Josh Widdicombe's the greatest contestant in Taskmaster history.
Yeah.
There are people we like. There may be people we like. People will say Bob Mortimer or James Acaster is the best contestant, but no, they're more favourites. Josh Widdicombe is genuinely, without question, the best Taskmaster contestant.
Yeah, Josh Widdicombe fucking tries. So the task is, buy the best present for the Taskmaster. You have 10 weeks, which that's a very, very simple task, and they also are given £20, but as Tim Key correctly notes, there's nowhere in the task that says that you actually have to use the £20 to purchase something, which
you can go beyond £20.
And he says that you could. Yeah, you can go beyond £20, which he suggests that you could buy a Jeep, which I want to just touch on this for a moment, although you don't know anything about cars, do you? Because why is a Jeep suggested? Because a Jeep is a US brand that while it does have sales in the United Kingdom, is it actually that prominent that someone would mention it by name as opposed to a car or maybe like a more British brand like a Land Rover?
Well, I think, well, obviously Jeep is a brand name, but in this country, it's also more like a. I think it can be more of a technical term as well for a certain type of car.
Oh,
Sort of like a
okay.
small off-road car. Like, for instance, say if you went on like a safari tour, you'd probably go in something like a Jeep. I'd say the British equivalent, the proper British equivalent of a Jeep, would be like a Range Rover.
Yeah, like a Land Rover Defender or something. I was just
Oh no, not
because
a
in the
Land Rover
United States,
Defender, because
Jeep
they're
is
quite not a Land Rover. Well, you can get souped up Jeeps, but a souped up Jeep would be like a Range Rover because Range Rovers are big, powerful, luxurious 4x4 cars.
okay. In the US, Jeep is a very distinctive brand that is characterized a lot by the fact that that its owners are like one of three people. Either they bought it because they wanted to own a Jeep and they don't do anything that a Jeep owner does. Number two, they bought it because they want to go off-roading and their car is usually equipped like that, equipped to handle that. Or three, they bought it because they wanted to look like they go off-roading, but in reality are so totally unprepared to go off-roading. There's many stratas to Jeep ownership, and most of them are posers. Anyways, so Tim does suggest that he should get Greg a Jeep. Spoiler alert: he doesn't.
Tim basically
But
overpromised and underdelivered, to put it lightly.
yeah. So to start with, Tim went first. He does say, if I'm going first, it's going to look the most shit, and it is because it's terrible.
Oh
He
god,
gets
prize was
16 pounds worth of national book tokens, which I don't know what they are, but I assume they're not great.
I can explain this because this is like another very quintessentially British thing. Well, not quintessentially, but it's like British people will understand it more. So, I don't know if this is done in American elementary schools or stuff, but in primary schools in the UK, all schools in the UK in general, but this is especially common in primary schools, which is everyone below the age of 12. There's this thing called World Book Day or Book Week. Now, if you're quite young,
Okay.
it will normally be what I remember partaking in this when I was very young. For the very young children, there's like a competition to see who can dress as the best character from a book. And I remember I went as as the Gruffalo. Have you ever read the Gruffalo?
I've heard the Gruffalo mentioned on panel shows. I don't know what a Gruffalo is.
Gruffalo, it's this really iconic children's book in Britain, basically. It's like one book that every parent reads to their child in this country.
Huh. That's very interesting. We don't have that in the United States. We have, and our American listeners, you can correct me if they've stopped doing this because I went to school like 10 years ago now. Scholastic book fairs where they would basically sell you books that you could buy, and I always bought a bunch of them because I liked reading. So, but there was never like a book week or anything like that.
Okay. It's very exclusively a British thing, but throughout all of Book Week or World Book Day, they will give you book tokens, which you can basically exchange for books of similar prices. I think if you have, so Tim bought Greg Davis £16 worth of book tokens. If a small child had that amount of book tokens, they could turn up to a bookshop and purchase a book basically using those tokens.
That's such a shitty present that I cannot understand why Tim thought that this would do anything. We're going to ignore the fact that he bought a £4 card to go with it, and therefore, like, Tim Key is the only. He said I could spend more than £20 and then didn't. Like, and this is just like a really shitty present.
That's like a real, like, Tim. It's basically the equivalent of Tim getting his arse out. He, like, in front of Greg, he's like saying, "Ha, fuck you. You're not worth more than 20 quid. You're not even worth 20 quid yourself."
And yeah, no, that was a shitty present. Moving on, Frank then gives Greg a pair of sunglasses that are so that you can look behind you while you're wearing them. They're actually a very inventive present, and I quite enjoyed that.
I actually had a pair of sunglasses like that once. I think I bought them on a ferry when I was going skiing in France or Austria or something. I bought them just because I could.
What a European thing to say. I bought these on a ferry to my ski holiday. That's a very European thing to say.
I mean, you probably don't even know what a ferry is.
We do not have ferry infrastructure on anywhere near the same level as you guys do. The only place in which it's anywhere near similar is the Washington State ferry system on the West Coast and the Alaska Maritime Highway Network, because Alaska is not contiguously connected to the United States, so a lot of times there's ferries that go from Canada and the United States up to Alaska and then into the Alaskan Aleutian Island chain. But other than that, no, we don't have ferries because we have an actual proper road network that goes everywhere and anywhere.
Ferries are mainly just used from...
And we aren't on an island either.
Oh yeah, because obviously the UK is an island. You need an affordable mode of transport to get from, say, the UK to Ireland or France or countries in that vicinity is a ferry, basically. Well, I say affordable. I don't really know how much a ferry costs.
I would travel exclusively by Eurostar because I like trains.
Okay, I like trains too, but I feel like there's more freedom on a ferry.
Well, you can take your train if you drive to Dover and take the train Folkestone and take the Channel train. But anyway, we're getting off track. Tish, intentional joke. Anyways,
let's hoist the
Frank
anchor
bought that. Greg really, yeah. Greg bought that. Greg loved that.
He doesn't care.
He did like that. He said it was going to be very difficult for someone to beat it.
No, I'm saying because the next one you don't care about the pun I made.
I didn't hear your pun. The audio cut out for a second.
I said, let's hoist the anchor and keep going.
Oh, very funny. Anyways, he especially doesn't think that Franks will be beaten because Romesh had a very, very shitty painting commissioned in which Greg is depicted as
this painting was so
godlike figure wearing a robe/toga with webbed feet. I don't know why Romesh decided to have this picture commissioned, and I don't know who thought that this was an appropriate thing to have done, but it's terrible and it sucked and it should be going in the bin. Hopefully it does. Next comes Roisin, who...
Well, technically not Roisin, but if you want to talk about Josh, we can wait until afterwards.
We're saving Josh for last. Roisin's actually freaked out Greg a little bit because she said, "I bought you something that you always knew you wanted," and then he's like, "What the hell is it?" And it's it was a rat or a mouse, a pet
also
mouse
called Greg.
named Greg, and 3 scratch cards. Because evidently the mouse cost £17, and so she got him 3 $1 scratch cards, which is what Tim should have done. But Obviously Tim is dumb, so we're not doing that. Meanwhile, none of these people actually matter in what they did because holy fucking shit, here comes Josh Widdicombe, who says, "I got a tattoo with your name on it," and of Greg's name, and it cuts to Josh Widdicombe being tattooed on his foot with the word Greg in the Taskmaster font, no less. And Greg just absolutely loses it, which
can we talk about Josh
is
Widdicombe
really great.
in the photos real quick?
Yeah,
because
he is not.
He looks like he's going down
enjoying this.
He looks like he's going down a water slide.
He looks like he's in a considerable amount of pain, is what it actually looks like.
He's definitely never had a tattoo before.
Yeah, he is obviously not enjoying this, and Greg is astounded, and actually, like, he makes Josh take his shoe off, makes Josh take his sock off, holds Josh's foot in his hands, like, licks his finger and tries to wipe it off because he thinks it's henna or something like that, and asks, in a genuine, like, he drops character from the Taskmaster and is like, "Is it real?" And yes, it is real. It's entirely real. Josh goes windmill slam into first place, and that is the best. Like that is how you play this game, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you do this. You fucking go the extra mile and do it. And
can I just also say,
Josh Widdicombe, you have a clap of respect.
Can I just say, Josh Widdicombe had to keep that quiet the whole time they were in the studio at every point before then. He couldn't say it to anyone or else it would ruin the surprise.
Yeah.
Also,
that is
when Roisin gives Greg his mouse and she says he's called Greg, Josh says, "Amazing, I've got a tattoo of his name."
Yeah.
And also Greg...
everything about that tattoo is amazing.
But also, because obviously we spoke about them out of order, a couple of things that we couldn't have mentioned during Roisin's, we can have to mention now, because obviously, just as Roisin gives Greg the mouse, and Greg takes a sneaky look through the wrapping paper and sees what it is, he goes, "Oh," and then he looks at Josh and goes, "Uh-oh," as though Josh inked himself for nothing.
Yeah, that would have been real funny, but also would not have happened, because holy shit.
But
then
the scores, Widdicombe obviously gets 5 points, Roisin gets 4, Frank 3, Romesh 2, and Tim 1. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Good. That was the Taskmaster Joe intro this time. Anyways,
I have both burped and sneezed while we've been recording.
Yeah, but the only thing I changed is that I gave Frank second place as opposed to third place, and Roisin third as opposed to second, because I felt that the look behind sunglasses were a bit neater, because this is actually a common problem with with people who are given pets or won pets, is that a lot of times they don't have the capability to take care of them, or they weren't expecting to have to take care of them. So it's not always a good idea to unexpectedly spring a living being on someone.
That's a really good point.
Especially one that is like incapable of taking care of themselves. And also, I don't like animals that much. Like, the most pet ownership we've had is a betta fish. And I really do not want to own an animal at any point, because I cannot
We've got a dog.
Deal with that.
We've got a dog, and he's the best.
Yeah, no, if you like animals, you are good. You can have as many as you want. I don't like if they ever make like really good robot dogs, like those ones they had in the early 2000s, but they were actually like decent at this, I would have one of those, or maybe just have a fish in a bowl on my kitchen counter, but they only live a few years and then they die. So I would I'm not a pets kind of person.
I can't even bear to think about the day my dog will die. I just can't think about it.
That I don't want either.
I love him too much. He's a handful, but oh my god, he's the best creature ever.
Yeah, so don't spring pets on people without consulting them, and also I don't like animals that much. That's why Roisin goes down one spot and Frank moves up one.
Fair enough.
Honestly, I would have given Romesh a lower space, but you cannot get any. Romesh commissioned a piece of art. No matter how terrible that is, that beats national book tokens. End of discussion.
You can't. Tim should. I think Tim should have got no points at all. He basically he overpromised and underperformed. Like I assume it was meant to just be like a joke that he just couldn't be asked.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's getting paid. They're getting paid more than we are to do the show.
If Tim had just gotten him £20 worth of lottery tickets, it would have been a better gift, really.
He could have just given him the £20 note back and it would have been better.
Yeah.
Because money, when in doubt, give someone money.
Yeah, that's how I do Christmas, is it's either ask exactly what they want and buy it for them, or give them money. So we're going to move on now to the task that you're really excited to talk about.
First, the scores into this task. Yeah, you keep brushing over this, and it's making me quite offended because it's the only bit of information I have that you don't have.
Well, then you have to keep interrupting me, because I just look at my notes and there's no thing there. So,
all right, scores.
So I just keep forgetting.
That obviously 2 first-place victories in a row for Josh has really helped him. But Romesh is in first on 14. Frank is in second on 13. Tim and Josh are in joint third on 12. And Roisin is in last on 8, unsurprisingly. But this task is... I've never been... This is the task of the episode. This is the task that prompts the episode title. Get an egg as high as possible without breaking it.
Using the provided materials.
Oh, yeah. So,
they've given materials, and you have 20 minutes.
So, the materials they're given, I didn't make note of this, but there's like a ream of paper, about 500 to 1,000 sheets of paper. Some pens.
Yeah, it's a ream of colored construction paper, some marker pens, and some other generalized craft supplies. I think I can pull up the episode. Let me look. Because I have it
paper is just full card, by the way. It's like a material firmer than paper, but not as hard as cardboard.
Yeah, it's construction paper, some cheap marker pens, and a pair of scissors.
Pretty self-standard.
That's it.
But we've seen that,
and the task itself.
Oh, and the table.
And there's a tape measure.
And the table.
Yeah, and there's a tape measure.
And the table. And the table,
as we will discover.
So, first up is Mr. Romesh Ranganathan himself. Romesh does nothing. Well, he does stuff, but he basically ends up in the same place where he started. The egg is sitting on top of the pens and the ream of paper, which is also on top of the table, bringing him to 1 meter 11. Do you have any further notes on this?
Not on Romesh. I have notes on Tim, and but not much else. I just want to point out for when you discuss Tim that during this entire season, there are multiple tasks in which eggs are involved, and at no point during this season has anyone been able to properly demonstrate how to competently boil an egg. And they've tried it like 4 different times.
I can't competently boil an egg, to be honest.
Yeah, but... Okay. Put egg in boiling water. Wait 10 minutes. You don't have to eat the egg at the end of this, so you can put it in longer and let it just turn rock hard. This is not difficult. None of them have managed this.
I personally find it easier to fry eggs rather than boil them.
Well, yes, but you're not trying to not break an egg by hitting it with a golf club, as we'll see in a later episode.
Yes, but we shall cross that bridge. Now, I mentioned that I was watching the episodes on 1.5 times the speed, and with Roisin, it made what was a very funny but brief period amount of time even funnier and even briefer because of just how close the noises are to each other. So Roisin comes up with an idea that is copied by two more contestants a bit later, in which she wants to throw it up and catch it. Now, there's already a problem with Roisin's plan, in that she is doing it in the lab portion of the Taskmaster house. So she can't throw it up too high, or else it will break on the ceiling. So, but she still throws it.
That's not as big of a concern. Because she didn't throw it very high to begin with.
No, she didn't throw it very high, but it wouldn't have mattered. So she throws it up, tries to catch it, misses. Well, the egg bounces off her fingertips and lands on the floor of the lab and cracks and goes everywhere. And poor Roisin.
And that's Roisin's contribution.
That's basically Roisin's. I feel like this task perfectly sums up Roisin. She has an idea.
Yeah.
It goes well for a split second, but then she literally lets it slip through her fingers, and it all goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, and then actually on that note, I would also say that this task also perfectly encapsulates Josh Widdicombe in that it goes really well for him, even when logically it shouldn't.
Exactly. But in terms of Roisin, oh god, you can see Roisin she just starts laughing but it obviously is like a despair kind of laugh. It's just like, oh god, no. And she just buries her face in her hands.
/instant regret.
Exactly. Moments taken before disaster, and it's just Roisin about to throw the egg up in the air. And then it's like top 10 biggest regrets ever. It's just Roisin with her head in her hands.
Yep.
So, not much more to say about Roisin other than when I had it on a faster speed, I watched it at least 15 times. Because it was just like, throb, so fast.
Splat.
And then we've got Timothy Keenathy. Not his actual name, but I've just lengthened it.
Sure. Let's go
Timothy Keenathy. Tim actually has a not bad strategy to start with. I respect his effort for trying, but it was really just bad luck with Tim. He decides to make a tower out of the card and some sellotape that he picks up. And he goes outside to get a bit more height. And the egg is like perched in a small funnel that's also made of card, right at the top of the right at the top of his pole.
Like a torch, basically.
Yeah, like a torch.
And by torch, like one with fire, not a flashlight.
Yeah, we call flashlights. I said flashlight. Don't think if you think I said something else. Don't. You're a dirty-minded little person.
I made that joke in my head already.
But I made it with my voice, so everyone heard it.
He also boiled the egg, as he tried to boil the egg.
Yeah, he clearly didn't boil it long enough because it broke.
Yeah, but as Romesh notes, it's very interesting how there was a cooker and a pot and a stove on the table in the lab. To which Greg just no-sells Romesh.
We'll talk about what Frank Skinner says in a bit, but so Tim goes outside. He raises his egg torch thing above his head, and he's got about 20 seconds left and the egg falls out of its holder, and it splats to the ground, much like Roisin's. And Tim is in absolute despair that he just goes inside without looking, without contemplating it. He's just too ashamed, and I really felt for him because he'd put all that time into making it, and it just didn't go right.
Mm-hmm. He did, and then he boiled the egg wrong. And then who's next?
We've got Josh and Frank next because they both used very similar tactics. By the way, neither Roisin's nor Tim's height was calculated because they were both disqualified. But Josh and Frank both take Roisin's idea. Well, not take, but they have the same idea as Roisin of throwing it up and possibly catching it, but possibly not. And just letting it and just seeing how high they can get it, basically. So, Josh has the idea to. Sorry, were you going to say something?
Oh no, I was just going to say what Josh and Frank did. You keep going.
Oh, so Josh has the idea to basically
because I had the word paper carapace written down, and I thought it was really funny to say.
Fair enough. Sorry, say it again. My mic kind of cut out.
I had paper carapace written down for what Frank made, and I thought it was really funny sounding.
Oh, that is quite funny. It's funny how you got it. It was delayed, but so Josh makes a crash mat out of the card basically by just scrunching it up into balls and throwing it in a pile. Frank makes what you said, a paper carapace. What is it?
Paper carapace. It's basically like a bug's endoskeleton.
Oh, okay. So I tell you, if we hadn't decided on an episode title for the episode, that probably would have been it.
It could still be that. Who knows?
What if we string all the titles we suggested together? So it's like, and very American episode / Big Gregory is watching you / Paper Carapace, and that's the title of the episode.
Big Gregory is watching an American paper carapace.
That's too clunky and too long.
Yep. Okay. But anyways,
Josh.
It should also be noted that Frank and Josh both went outside to do this.
Yeah, if you're gonna throw the egg, the best place to do it is outside. So Josh throws the egg up in the air, as does Frank. Josh's egg misses its target of the landing pad, and Josh is like, "No!" And it freezes on Josh, looking scared for his life into the camera before cutting back to the studio. And Greg is just amazed that he gives a shit. I can't remember. Do they cut to the ad break here, or do they let it go again?
I don't know. I don't have that. Hold on, let me look.
Because I mean, I would have felt very cheated if it went to the ad break. As a casual viewer,
it did not. It cuts back to. It cuts. The ad break is actually between the task and the live task.
Oh, okay.
So it cuts back to the studio.
Imagine if they put the ad break there, though. That would have been, oh god, you would have felt so cheated.
This isn't the US version of Taskmaster. They don't do that shit on British TV.
Well, they've kind of done it a bit, but not in this show.
Oh no, like US TV would definitely have made it like really mean and done it like that every episode. If they'd done it like that.
Well, all right.
Anyways,
so we cut back to
yeah.
It's basically like a to be continued moment, and then it continues immediately. So
yeah,
Josh is. So we pick up where Josh has just screamed no, and is looking at the camera. His egg lands, and Josh is amazed that it hasn't broken. Frank's egg, meanwhile, lands. Frank actually planned on catching his egg, and bringing his hands down with the egg rather than having them be positioned straight where they were to avoid the egg breaking while sewing it down, but also keeping it moving down. The egg hits Frank. Frank catches the egg, but it really throws him off and he falls over, but drops the egg. And Frank checks the egg and it's sadly broken. But then we cut to
totally unfortunate.
Frank, just to say, Frank's egg reached, I think it reached a height of about 8.5 meters, somewhere around that line, but it doesn't count because his egg broke. But Josh makes one of the weirdest decisions to throw it again. Which is, why would you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm sure it was just an impulse decision, but why would you throw it again? I don't understand. Sorry, my voice broke about 15 times in that sentence.
Just like everyone else's eggs.
Yeah, I'd be disqualified. But apparently, according to Alex and his research, because the egg landed on eggs are designed not to break if they land on grass, just in case they fell from a nest, say. Which, fair enough.
I don't believe that for a second, but sure, let's go on.
So the scores are pretty straightforward. Josh gets 5 points for getting it the highest. Romesh gets it the second highest against everything that was going against him. And the other three get nothing, basically. So, dare I say,
I scored it a little differently.
Taskmaster Joe?
Yes, I scored it mildly differently, so just make your intro and then it'll take 2 seconds.
He's the Taskmaster and his name is Joe. It's Taskmaster Joe. Of course it is.
Oh my god. You know, by like the 10th season of this, we're going to be like having full prog rock intros for this. It's going to be hilarious.
What if we get like a different musical artist to sing the jingle each time?
If the Patreon subscribers that don't exist yet want to pay for that, I will absolutely.
So we get, say, Steve Dion to sing it one week, and then we get the Foo Fighters to sing it the next week.
Yeah, I'm totally down for like our Patreon tiers to be like, you know, pay for new music, pay for royalty-free music.
Because we can't afford royalty-free music. We still can't.
Nope. But no, we still can't. But I gave Josh the first place, obviously, and nobody else got any points except for Romesh. I gave him last place because, yes, he technically completed the prize, but that's not fucking effort. That's not how you play this game. The only way he could have done it worse is if he'd put the fucking thing on the fucking floor. Really, I should be asking. I should have, like, as Taskmaster, have been asked Alex Horn to measure how high the ream of paper was and measured it to the surface of the table, because that's the height that he really got, and he doesn't deserve anything more than that. So last place for Romesh because he didn't fucking break the egg, because he didn't fucking do anything.
Okay, you seem quite passionate about that. So
I hate when people do shit like that and don't try, like. Especially when you're on a TV game show.
Yeah. But before we talk about the scores, I just want to mention one thing Frank said. Frank said he didn't boil his egg because he didn't notice the pan and the cooker. Unlike Tim Key. And Greg says, oh, what a shame. They clearly weren't on display, and that's not fair. Maybe I'll give you an extra point. And Romesh becomes deadly serious at this point. He's like, if you give him a bonus point, I swear to God. And then he's just like, nah, I was only joking.
Oh, actually, well then in that case, Taskmaster Joe is also going to give Frank Skinner a point just because it makes Romesh upset. I've decided that, because making Romesh Ranganathan upset is funny.
I mean, I can't disagree with that. We'll have to keep. I'll have to keep watching the season, but I really hope we get more angry Romesh, like really, really fucking livid Romesh.
I think we do, but I really don't think that. I think he peaks his anger
This episode.
At there was no box mate.
Yeah. Oh no, his anger peaked in the live task.
Yeah, which we're going to get to right now, which is the live task is a very simple one. Yes, do the scores.
Yeah, it's been a very good episode for Romesh. He's only won one task up to this point, which was the prize task. But Romesh is in contention to win this episode, the first episode where he could win after being close in the first episode and not so good last time. But Romesh is on 18. Josh right behind him on 17. Then it's Frank on 13, Tim on 12, and Roisin on 8. So that's the scores. Romesh knows he basically needs this to save his wedding ring.
Uh-huh. And the next task that we go into to save Romesh Ranganathan's wedding ring is stand up after 100 seconds. They're all sitting on the stage, 100 seconds on the clock, and and you cannot look at your watch, Romesh, which is while you're talking about the scores, I was rewatching that scene, and Alex definitely took Romesh's watch away from him, and he is super indignant.
They call it showbiz mugging.
And yes, and so it's a very simple task. You just in 100 seconds you have to stand up, and the closest person to get it wins. And we go through this, and before the 100 seconds is reached, or before anyone stands up, Gregory Davis decides that he Big Gregory, as opposed to medium-sized Gregory, decides that Romesh looks a little bit out of sorts, sitting on his hands with no watch. So he has Alex Horn give him a lift. And by lift, I mean a little thing to lift his spirits. And that thing is a cardboard box that they have provided from off-stage.
Romesh's face at this point is priceless.
Romesh is so marvelously upset at this.
Fury does not begin to describe the emotions that Romesh is feeling at this point.
Especially because he's sitting there with the box on his lap, and everyone has to sit on their hands, so he can't move it. And so it's just so bad. And then of course, in the middle of this ineptitude, this rage from Romesh, Roisin just stands up, and it's clearly not 100 seconds. I have no idea when it is.
They don't say when it is.
Roisin stands up. No, Roisin stands up and is immediately called out by everyone else that it has clearly not been 100 seconds. To which she goes, oh, and sits back down and has another go at this, to the shock and consternation of Tim Key and everyone else on the stage, and uproarious laughter from the audience. Up next is Josh, and then Tim and Romesh stand up almost in unison. Romesh starts moving a little bit faster than Tim. Like, he moves maybe a third of a second before Tim does, but they're in sync. And then clearly Romesh realizes that Tim has stolen his thunder a little bit, and he just wallops him with the box and swears at him.
It wouldn't have, if Josh hadn't stood up though at this point, it wouldn't have mattered though, because Romesh would have still won. Regardless of when Tim's, if he and Tim had stood up at exactly the same time, it wouldn't have mattered because Romesh would have still won.
Yeah, but Josh did stand up first.
Yeah, but that was the only thing standing between. Josh is the only thing standing in Romesh's way. Josh will not let Romesh have his wedding ring. Josh is a resilient little cactus.
Yes, he is. And then, speaking of things that are older than cactuses, some of which were one of the first plant lives ever created, Frank Skinner eventually stands up, because clearly he's having to measure this against his immense lifespan and is a little bit confused on how seconds work. And he stands up, and it's, sort of around that time. And then Roisin elects to stand back up again, as if this will somehow make her not have erase her first time of doing this. So she's both the first and last person to stand up, which means that she is, of course, last because Josh
place
Widdicombe
twice.
got it the closest to. Yeah, because Josh Widdicombe was in fact the closest to 100 seconds, meaning that he gets first, then Romesh and Tim, then Frank, then Roisin, in that order. Which gives us down to a number of points that you have written down, but the important thing is that there is a tiebreaker round between Romesh.
So we'll talk about the points real quick. At this point, Roisin is in last on 9, then it's Frank on 15, Tim on 16, and God, the two who have basically been crashing heads all throughout the episode, Josh and Romesh, are on 22 points apiece. Before we talk about the live task, though, can we talk about Widdicombe's comeback in this episode? Because after 2 tasks...
Yes, we can.
First 2 tasks, prize task and the teabag task, Josh Widdicombe basically has nothing at the end of the teabag task. He's in last place by quite some distance. Well, he's not by quite some, but he's far away from the leaders. And then he proceeds to win the next 3 tasks quite well, putting him basically in sniffing distance behind Romesh. Romesh held his lead, despite only having 1 victory to Josh's 3, technically 4. He held his lead all throughout this episode, but Josh would not let Romesh keep his wedding ring. This episode should have been titled, forget the poet and the egg, this episode should have been titled Josh versus Romesh, because that's what it came down to, basically. Mm-hmm. And if things couldn't get any more... So do you want to talk about the tiebreaker, or should I? Because I have...
I mean, I was just going to mention that you know, the thing that we need to like have as the thumbnail for this, if we put this on if we want to put this on YouTube, the thing that we need to have as the thumbnail is Romesh's face at around 42 minutes and 57 seconds.
I know. I think I know the moment you're talking about. Well, we'll talk about the tiebreaker real quick, and we'll bring up the moment. I think I know you're talking about this moment.
Yeah.
But so basically, as if the battle between Josh and Romesh, who were basically the front runners throughout the whole episode, couldn't be any closer. The tiebreaker between the two is this isn't like a pre-recorded task like the hide and seek from the first episode was. It's just a question, and whoever's the closest, it's a question with a numerical answer, and whoever's the closest wins. And the question is, what is Frank Skinner's age in minutes? So
now, I didn't know numbers could go that high to actually get Frank Skinner's age, because, you know, Frank Skinner is predating the concept of linear time, but I presume that there is some number.
Frank Skinner has a picture of his room. There's a selfie of Frank Skinner with Adam and Eve, but there's also a selfie of Frank. He's just doing like a thumbs up, and right behind him is the Big Bang explosion.
Frank Skinner has selfies that he had to carve into clay tablets because cameras hadn't been invented yet.
That's a caveman selfie. But basically, so what is Frank Skinner's age in minutes? Josh is nominated to go first by Greg, but Josh doesn't take kindly to this, so he asks if Romesh can go first instead. And Greg's like...
And Greg just says, okay. And the look that Romesh gives is actually, I have it paused at exactly 42:58 in the YouTube video for anyone who wants to go look at this. Half of Romesh's face has caught up with this betrayal and half of it has not. Because one eye is wide and like glaring directly at Greg Davies, and the other one is still coming round to look at, to full shocked expression.
Send me a screenshot of it. But remember, Romesh has a lazy eye, so I think that's...
No. This is just as his head is turning. It's like one eye is closer than the other, and he's just so like shocked.
Very quickly take a screenshot and send it to me on Discord.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I am. Hold on.
while Joe does that, so Josh asks if Romesh can answer the question instead. And Greg's like, yeah, sure. And Romesh is utterly bewildered by this. This is, I thought, I was wrong. The box in the live task is not the apex of Romesh's anger. This is the moment of Romesh's anger. The anger and the utter shock that he has just been stood up. Well, not stood up, but just put on the spot so quickly. And he cannot believe it. And so Greg asks Romesh to give Frank Skinner's age in minutes. Romesh asks if Josh can do it, and Greg is just like, absolutely not. What a preposterous suggestion.
Yeah, I just sent them to you. I sent you his face, like, recognizing that something has happened, and then the next one is him just realizing what has happened.
We've just hit the 2-hour mark. God.
Oh my god.
Well, we're so close to the end. We'll wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. Yeah. So Romesh, without thinking, just says 150,000, which is quite pathetic. And Josh says just a bit higher, 200,000. And Frank Skinner is 30,505,028 minutes old.
I was going to make that same joke. I didn't think the numbers went that high. But
so that's how old Frank Skinner is in minutes. Josh Widdicombe finally dethrones Romesh Ranganathan and succeeds in his lifelong mission to win Romesh's wedding ring. God knows what Romesh is going to say to his wife when he turns up at home. But Josh Widdicombe wins his first episode of the series. And the scores at this point, in terms of the whole series scores, Romesh is, despite not winning any episodes yet, Romesh is still in the lead for the trophy on 55. Then Tim and Josh are in joint second on 51. Frank's on 43, and Roisin is on 37.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is not going well for some people. I still just I can't get over the screenshot of Romesh is just shocked, horrified. Like, it's not even he's not even angry. He's just realized that he's lost his wedding ring. Like, this isn't even anger. This is just shock and like betrayal.
We can also make this.
Have you seen it?
I'm just looking at it, but we can also make it the thumbnail, I think, for, say, Spotify. I'm just pulling it
up. My god, yes.
So I'm looking at your paper notes. Oh my god.
Yeah. Like, his face takes a second to catch up with what's just been said to him. And then it's just like there's no acting here. This is just Romesh realizing that he's lost his wedding ring.
Oh god.
Because that is the face of a man who does not know how old someone is in minutes.
I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. Romesh, this started out so well for Romesh, and it slowly went downhill, and then it took a massive downhill turn. The second Josh passed over that answer, it was the end of the line for Romesh. He just could not do it by that point. And that is...
It's such a great image.
This confirms my belief that Romesh Ranganathan is the most unlucky Taskmaster contestant of all time. Nothing... he just cannot get it. He'll either be super close or super far behind. And that's what makes him particularly unlucky. But... we've been recording for well over 2 hours. We are at the halfway point of the series. It's close. I guess if you have any questions, send us them to answer in the Q&A at YTSNPod@gmail.com. Do you have any final words, Joe? Because it's nearly midnight here.
go to bed.
Oh, I fucking will. I'm
Go the fuck to bed,
gonna
Emerson.
I'm gonna sleep like a log. All right.
Yep. And
I've been Emerson,
I've been Joe,
and Big Greg has been Big
and
Greg.
this was. And Romesh has been unlucky. And this was Your Time Starts Now, a Taskmaster podcast.
Podcast,
Good night.
not podnast. Bye.
Whatever.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.